Hello, folks. Dave here, uh, and getting to desperate times. Um, it's been it's been a few days since I last worked on this piece. Um, Partly because of how exhausted I've been, but also because I've not been too well. I've been awake in the night, asleep in the day. So I've not been able to use power tools, and to be honest, I'm feeling a little bad about the prospect of using a power tool now, but I'm out of time because it's now the 21st of December. So I'm 3 days away from being a month late, and I'm 3 days away from Christmas Eve. Um, but I mean, over the last couple of days, it sort of has been crossing my mind as to whether I could just bang some varnish on this and done. But I'm not happy with it. I've got to at least try. I've got to at least give it one more try of getting it perfect. I mean, for all I know, applying varnish to it may solve all of the, well, not issues, but may finish it off perfectly. I don't know, but I don't want to apply the varnish and then have to take that off as well. So now I am going to crack on with resanding this. I'm going to start off with 240 grit. So obviously previously we'd started with 80, gone to 120, 180, 240. But I'm going to start with 240 because the marks that are on it are not particularly deep. I've got a new sheet for it. So I'm going to try and give it a nice sanding. What I'm going to try and do as well is I'm really going to try and focus on checking whether I'm removing what I need to remove. Anyway, I'm going to crack on, so let's go. Hello everybody. Right, as you've seen, it's been sanded for the third time, and I was very positive about how it had gone until I went away, let it dry, come back. I tried a couple of new techniques which seemed to work, one of them being, because I've been using like two of the same sheet, same grade, but both wet. What I did this time was use one dry, took it off, cleaned the piece, and then used one wet. Seemed to work really well. I ended up with a much better, a much more uniform haze across the piece, and I really was very pleased with it until I came and sat down, and I can see some marks on it from the sander, and I don't know how the hell that's possible. Now at the moment I can only see, well, 3 or so, but there's not a lot I can do about it. I'm hoping that it's just where it's dirty, perhaps, because for example it's hazy, but then you look at that bit that's not hazy, that's the bit I've just licked my finger with and given it a wipe. So with a bit of moisture, the haziness sort of goes, and when the haziness goes, the marks go. So I'm hoping that yeah, we can sort that out. Now it doesn't matter how much I wipe this, clean this, wet it, it still dries to a haze. That's what the polishing compound is for. So I'm going to have to I'm just going to have to go with it now. I mean, unfortunately, it's one of those situations where I'm out of time, and there's not a lot more I can do to it really. So other than go for it, so that's what I'm going to do. I might as well fast forward it. Right everybody, update time. I've done as much on it as I can. On the last bit where I spoke, I mentioned about there was a few marks from the sander. Thankfully, it would appear that that was just sort of in the haze. Yeah, because I can't see them now. Doing the polishing compound bit was a right pain in the arse, because I don't think my sander and my orbital sander's up to it. I don't think it's up to the job, unfortunately. So I ended up having to do it by hand, which, yeah, I ended up using this to basically apply it, and then another one to spread it, which is now falling down the stairs, and so on. And I did have to, I did it twice, because once I'd finished the first one, the first sort of application and clean, it looked no different than it did before I started. And I was, oh my eyes were in, I was not happy, I was pissed off. I was pissed off that basically all the work done today, and it was no different. But I went and applied, and basically I saw there was still loads of compound on this, so I just thought, fuck it, I'll just apply it again. And with a lot of buffing it does now look a lot better. Kind of in catch-22, in that could probably keep buffing it a bit and it might look even better, but I'm fucked, and the orbital sander doesn't seem to be doing it. Because I think the orbital sander should be able to polish this up fucking 100 times quicker than I can, but it's not doing it. Yeah, so the other option is just to basically say, right, okay, we're done on that bit now, varnish, because the varnish should hopefully give it another level of shine. What I will do is I will show it you. It is looking a lot better. So if I can get the light on it now, sort of on the O, for example, although it may sort of look hazy there, it isn't really, but it's a much more uniformed, better looking thing, and there's quite a nice shine on the resin. Get a reflection. That reflection is off the camera. That is the image being recorded, reflected off the resin. So the reflectiveness is pretty good. So I'm going to leave that for the rest of today. Could probably do with covering it up though. And then, well, I'll say for the rest of today. I can if I want to. If I'm not asleep, I can look at applying the varnish. Now, another reason why I want to get this done as soon as possible is because of sanding all of the resin as much as I have done over the last 2 weeks. This place is covered in white dust. It's fucking everywhere. I mean, it's on the doors, it's on the walls, it's on, yeah, I mean, it is sticking to the wall. So I need to have a full clean down in here, and I was kind of hoping to be able to do that before Christmas, but I don't think it'll happen. But at least if I can get this place ready for that to happen just after Christmas, I'll be alright with that. So yeah, so I'm buggered, but eventually progress has been made. I'm just frustrated that the power tool that I got to help me, I actually think might be holding me back. Unfortunately, because the marks that were left on this before today were definitely from the sander, because when I was sanding this time, I used some of the normal sanding sheets, not wet dry, and when I did that, I was able to straight away see in the resin dust the pattern that I'd been seeing on the resin. And it's the loops and swoops of the orbital sander moving around. That's what I could see. Now, I was still getting that with the early stages of the wet dry sanding sheets as well, but obviously once I'd got it to a much more level, a much smoother surface, it was better, but I did realise that I had to be careful. So for example, right, okay, what are these? Right, okay, so that's a 320 sheet and that's a 400 sheet. Now really the 320 sheet should have taken off more than the 400, which I think I did use another 320, but anyway. Okay, so for example, with this sheet, I took this off because as I got to a certain point where all of a sudden the swirls and the marks were even more prominent, and basically it's where the resin builds up on the sanding sheet and becomes a higher point of contact. So that's making contact rather than the sanding sheet itself, because ideally, I mean, the sanding sheet should be one uniform colour. If it's white on one bit, it should be white on all of it, but obviously that's not what we're getting. So I did have to be very careful of, like with this one, that one got a high point and started making marks, so I stopped and swapped. Similar with these, see that this 240, this was the second one I used. That 240, although the marks are sort of kind of, they're in the same sort of places around the thing, it's not very even. So like you got all this around here and then all that in the middle. When you compare that to this one's a lot more uniform. So this one started making marks, took it off, put that one on, and it was a much more uniform thing. It's one of the ways how I was able to tell, or thought I could tell, that I was making progress. So there we go. Right, anyway, I'm going to stop talking because I've still got loads of other stuff to do. But progress has been made, finally. Right, see you in a bit.